Segment 4 of MAAC Mania's Women's Wednesday here with JJ Garcia and myself, Mike Duda. We were just talking about a team that we think are pretenders in Sacred Heart, but I don't know about you, JJ, a team that's definitely not a pretender and rolling in scorching hot right now at just the right time are the Manhattan Jaspers.
Yes, they might still be fighting for that bye spot, but they are a contender, no doubt about it. 4-game win streak, obviously 2 of those Niagara Canisius, but they beat Marist in a very good game, and then they beat Merrimack, which was a huge, very, very impressive game. Brianna Davis, 15 points per game. She is so incredible for this team. This whole team just all around is very, very well-rounded. Their defense right in the middle of the pack, offense right in the middle of the pack. But something that's so special about this team is the momentum that they bring into games and have throughout the games. They'll just randomly go on 15-0 runs out of nowhere when you would not expect it. It could be a tie game. It could be 20-20. They'll go on a 15-point run, and they will not look back. They will keep that pressure on, and that's something that's so special. They like to play at their pace. They like to play how they want to play, and they kind of force their opponents into playing how they want to play, and that's what makes this Manhattan team so special.
You mentioned Brianna Davis, who was selected to a preseason All-MAC team, but I think a player that came in, obviously not going to get those preseason All-MAC bids because she came up from Division II, is the graduate in Colette Moldereg. She is so good at getting boards on the glass, but she's also fantastic on the defensive front with just an uncountable number of blocks. It seems as if she's always good for 2 to 4 blocks per game that she plays in, or even more. She is extraordinarily impressive. I think there's a realistic shot that she finds herself on an All-MAC team. So this Jasper team definitely rolling. That upset victory against the number 3 seeded right now Merrimack Warriors was, as we mentioned earlier, Heather Vulin's 139th victory as a Manhattan Jasper head coach, the most all-time in Jasper women's basketball history, surpassing Kathy Solano, who held the record for a while, who coached from 1983 to 1992. So she held that record for nearly 25 years, over 25 years, nearly 35 years. And now it is broken by Heather Vulin. She's 139 and 155 in her Manhattan career, 96 and 91, 5 games above 500 in the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference. And as we mentioned, it also punched a ticket to the playoffs for them. Another team that is in the postseason is the Mount. They beat Niagara, seems almost a guarantee. Again, they beat Ryder, that being Niagara, so maybe it's not as much of a guarantee. But then they lost at Canisius. It's been a streaky season for the Mountaineers, but are you concerned about this? How concerned are you, I should say, about this loss?
This is a weird loss, in my opinion, because you do beat Niagara, but then you go to overtime with Canisius. It's kind of a very interesting game.
Because they dominated Niagara, and that punched their ticket to Atlantic City.
And just before that, they beat Sacred Heart, they beat Iona. So those are 2 really good wins, and then you lose this game. It's very interesting. I'm not super concerned about the loss because obviously you do see teams get upset randomly here and there. You've seen top teams fall before, so not too concerned. But at the same time, you kind of look at this team and it's interesting. It's Amber Bullard. She's kind of leading the way right now with Gabrielle Kernley out. Kernley was averaging almost 16 points per game, but she hasn't played in nearly a month. So it's been Amber Bullard leading the way for this team. And honestly, I think they can make some noise. But at the same time, when you lose a game like this later on in the season, that does raise a lot of red flags for me. So in my opinion, I do think this is a very concerning loss and that they really do have to win these last 2 games against Sacred Heart and Ryder to really, really bring my confidence back up in them.
They open up the season at home in Emmitsburg against the Marist Red Foxes, a game that was only decided by 7, but felt way, way worse than that in favor of the Mount. The aforementioned Red Foxes, they dropped another game against Manhattan, and it was in overtime. We mentioned that theme all season, how it's so close in the closing minutes. Goes to a lot of overtime games. They've been in 5 overtime games this season already. In fact, I believe it actually might be north of 5 games this year that have reached overtime, which is crazy for a squad that hasn't even played 30 games yet. So the Red Foxes theme continues. Now they're on a 3-game losing streak that began with that upset from Ryder in Lawrenceville on Valentine's Day. Again, I ask you, JJ, Are you concerned? Because technically speaking, this is a team that can still get a top 6 bye.
I'm concerned.
Okay.
I'm very, very, very concerned. It's kind of been kind of a season where they can't close out games, and that's something that's really big in basketball. If you can close out games, if they won, like, I would say 4 of these overtime games, if they're able to close out 4 of these games, I would be like, oh yeah, this Mariners team very solid. They can get this done. I don't think they can do that right now. You had a big lead against Merrimack. You lost in overtime. You lost to Ryder. You lost to Manhattan in overtime. You're having injury problems. It just doesn't seem like anything's going Marist's way right now, and that is very concerning. I do think there is a way that they could turn it around. They have great players. They really do have great players. Justine Henry, we've talked about her before. Lexi Terrell, Kira Croker, Casey Bertonis have been playing great recently. Jackie Pittick. There are so many good players who can really explode at any point, but right now they are just struggling, and it is very, very concerning to see.
Danny Williamson not in the mix for a handful of the most recent games as well. I think that's had an impact on the squad. St. Peter's, though, not helping their case to overthrow Marist. They lost at Fairfield and then at home to Iona, also on a 3-game skid. St. Peter's or Ryder for the 10 seed, or both get into that playoff scenario and eliminate Marist? Where are you thinking there?
It all depends on what happens on Thursday.
But you can't say that. That's the way. That's how you get out of this. I'm saying right now, who are your bottom 2 teams in the conference, or I should say, out of the 3 that haven't clinched, what 2 make it?
Marist and St. Peter's make it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I kind of like Ryder. I really think Ryder has a good shot of getting in.
Since you asked me it that way, I do think it's Marist and St. Peter's.
Because they're really adapting to that Princeton offense. And the thing about the Princeton offense is it takes a while to get adapted to, but once you do it, like, you're rolling. You're knowing that offense, and you could really get good and get hot at the right time. And I think that's just what's happening with Ryder. I'm going Marist and Ryder.
I'm going Marist and St. Peter's, but from the stance that you asked me, but if I take it the other way and be super, super, super realistic about this, if Marist beats St. Peter's on Thursday, Ryder makes it in over St. Peter's.
Okay.
That is my opinion. If Marist is to take down St. Peter's on Thursday, Marist will be in, and Ryder will jump St. Peter's at one point. But if St. Peter's does win that game, I think it will still be Marist and St. Peter's both making the MAAC playoffs.
Ryder with a Buffalo victory over Canisius, but they lost in Niagara Falls to the Purple Eagles. Yeah, they lived to see another day, but they lost to an 0-26 team. That has to mean something, right, JJ?
Yes. If they were to win that game, we'd be having a totally different conversation.
They'd be tied right now. In the St. Peter's holds the tiebreaker,
Yes.
but they'd be currently tied in the standings, technically speaking.
We would be having a much different conversation right now if that was the case. But because they lost this game to a 25 losing streak team, 25 straight games that they
26?
26 straight games that they lost, I think it's all out the window for Ryder at this point.
Wow.
Yes, you play Siena. We've talked about Siena. They're struggling right now. You play Mount St. Mary's. Those are 2 winnable games for this Ryder team. But at the same time, stuff has to go Ryder's way. They have to win these games. And after seeing them lose to Niagara, I don't know if they can win these last 2 games. And that's just the honest truth.
Niagara lost to the Mount at home and then, of course, beat Ryder at home. Canisius in overtime lost to Ryder at home and then hosted the Mount where they had an overtime victory. So the Buffalo Schools getting some good games in there, playing spoiler a little bit despite being already eliminated from the postseason. One last segment here on MAAC Mania's Women's Wednesday. We're going to talk about players and the upcoming slate for the last week of the regular season. Stay tuned for segment 5.